Welcome to all those present who have accepted our invitation to attend this event. The Gozo Business Chamber, in collaboration with Aġenzija Żgħażagħ, Bank of Valletta, EUROPE DIRECT Gozo, the Gozo Regional Development Authority, the Ministry for the Economy, European Funds and Lands, and the EUROPE DIRECT Gozo, is organizing the 4th edition of the Youths for Entrepreneurship Gozo. The scope of this event is to encourage potential young entrepreneurs to share new and innovative business ideas, which are directly relevant to the island of Gozo. The overall goal of this initiative is to direct attention to the economic potential and challenges we face as an island, while encouraging young people to take an innovative approach to develop their business ideas based on Gozo's needs and potential. We are very excited today, and I welcome the panel of business experts who will be asking questions and giving their feedback on the business ideas that will be presented today. To this end, I welcome Simon Schembri, Mark Cicluna, Bartoli, Mario Borch, and Matthew Caruana. Mark Cicluna Bartoli will be following us virtually. Simon Schembri is Manager Community and Outreach Youth Work Services at Aġenzija Żgħażagħ. Mark Cicluna Bartoli is Head Product Management and Development Business Banking at Bank of Valletta. Mario Borch is the Chief Executive Officer of the Regional Development Authority. Matthew Caruana is a leading business innovator and the Chief Executive Officer of the JAYE Malta Foundation. I remind everyone of the criteria on which the proposal that has been submitted will be reviewed. Principally, the applicability to the Gozan context, innovative approach, ability to solve a potential problem or to cater for a specific need, and the quality of the pitch. This year's theme has focused on the aspect of sustainability and climate change, and it is emblematic that the COP26 in Cairo is taking place as we are doing this event. For all of you participating here, please feel free to post anything related to today's event on Instagram or Facebook with the hashtag Y4EGozo. I would now like to invite Joseph Borch, the President of the Gozo Business Chamber, to make his introductory speech.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to all. It is with pleasure that I am introducing this Youth for Entrepreneurship Gozo event today. And first of all, I would like to thank our partners, Aġenzija Żgħażagħ, Bank of Valletta, and the Ministry for the Economy, European Funds, and Lands for their support. We are going to hear some very interesting proposals, which I am really looking forward to, and I hope and I am sure you yourself are looking forward to. During the past 4 editions, our youth have not failed to surprise us on how creative they can be. As a chamber, we have always believed in this initiative right from the start, just as we also believe that for those young persons, this activity can really be a launching pad towards new horizons. In order to be of further help to these young entrepreneurs, I am pleased to announce today that as from the start of next year, 2023, the Gozo Business Chamber will be offering free membership to startups for a period of up to 3 years. This will be subject to the following criteria. The startup must have its registered operations address in Gozo. Secondly, the startup must have in plan an operation with products and/or services to be launched on the market or is already offering such products or services on the market. And thirdly, the startup must not have been in operation for more than 5 years. We feel that the Chamber is an important institution where these startups can contribute to network, and consequently the Chamber can provide them with a platform where they can grow further. On our part, we believe that the Chamber will be enriched by having these startups as its members. This will be our small way of giving a helping hand to those startups, to these startups, so that they can grow even further. It is rather the message that we want to go out there. The message is we value the entrepreneurial spirit of our youth, and we want to encourage this spirit by giving it all the support we can garner. Today we will hear about and discuss ideas through which we can combat climate change. It could not have come at a more opportune moment as world leaders are gathered in Egypt, debating how we can all come together to avert catastrophe, as we are already experiencing the dire effects of climate change. The Chamber has been working tirelessly towards putting the need of sustainability in all that we do on the forefront. I hope that today's initiative will continue to raise the awareness that we need to act urgently. There is no more time to lose. To conclude, whilst looking forward to hear from these young entrepreneurs, I thank you all for supporting our initiative and for being with us tonight. I hope you will enjoy this evening. Thank you.
I would now like to invite Miriam Toma, CEO of Aġenzija Żgħażagħ, to make her intervention.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me, and I feel so proud that I'm here. I feel proud that I'm here because of 3 reasons, actually. One is that I feel that this event is part of the service that Aġenzija Żgħażagħ is giving to Gozo. I mean, we've been trying to set up and give a service here in Gozo for Gozotan young people and other young people who are living on Gozo. I mean, we've been working on this for the past few years, and in reality, this is one of our flagship events. I mean, as you have heard, already this is the 4th time that we're doing this, and therefore, for us, it's an achievement. I mean, the second thing is the collaboration. I mean, the collaboration with the Gozo Business Chamber. I mean, we started it off out of, in a way, nothing, and it's growing, and it's a really nice collaboration. And in a way, it shows that it's good that we don't work in silos and that we work with others. And when we work in a team, I mean, we can achieve something. It's also part of our national youth policy. I mean, our national youth policy says that we should collaborate together with others to give opportunities for youth. And in a way, the third is that here today we're creating a space for young people, a space for you who are going, we have 4 ideas today, a space for you to come here and really put forward your idea to us. And perhaps, probably, it's your first time to do this. And therefore, I'm just want to tell you, listen, this is the first time. This is a process which we tried to get you through, and this is why Aġenzija Żgħażagħ is involved in this, to give you the skills. And this is only the beginning. So, therefore, dream, never give up, be resilient, and continue working on your ideas. Aġenzija Żgħażagħ offers a number of programs, not only this one, even on Gozo. And you, as young people, there's a new program which we have just launched, which is called the Groundbreakers. And it's the second step that you can take up after the ideas you're going to present to us today. So I wish you luck. I'm really looking forward to hear your ideas, and I hope, as the president of the Gozo Business Chamber was also promoting, that you take up your idea and really get your dream come true. So good luck and keep up the good work that you're going. Thank you.
Now I leave the floor to the first pitch. May I remind all the contestants that you have 10 minutes to present your pitch. Another 10 minutes will be allocated to the panel of business experts to make their questions. I now invite Nathaniel Saliba to present his idea, Next Step.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel, and this is our project, Next Step. So basically, this project is an application which promotes healthier lifestyle and choosing alternative mobility, greener mobility options. Now, this is our background and scope. With sustainability projects, there are two main problems. Changing the lifestyle is very difficult and also very expensive, in the millions. With this project, we believe that we're going to mitigate the problem. Now, this project will target 4 issues. First, environmental issues. By this, we're going to reduce pollution. Furthermore, we believe that on Sunday, instead of going for a Sunday drive, people should opt to go hiking or even going on bike trials, or using alternative methods of transport for leisure activities. The second one, it's health issues, obesity and mental state. Obviously, when you're going to be active, you're gonna be more healthier and lose weight. On the other hand, mental state is a big issue at the moment. Studies show that when being in nature, endorphins and serotonin release. These hormones are responsible for your happiness and being calm. The third one is economical wavelength. We want to increase consumption to local shops. By this, local shops will subsidize us. We market their shops, and we offer discounts to our users through these shops. The last thing is culture shift. Anyone knows Pokemon Go? You guys know? Okay, so basically, with Pokemon Go, everyone was being more active because they needed to collect certain Pokemon. With this, with our project, it's the same concept, but instead of fictitious items, we're gonna incentivize them with discounts from local shops. On to the next slide. The idea and implementation. This operation will have 2 main pillars. Geolocation tracking, which offers real-time tracking and even when being offline. And the second, choosing the mobility option. Obviously, we can use walking, running, cycling, scooter, or even other methods like skateboarding, etc. The app will have some built-in features. So the first screen you'll see when you get to your app is activity type. You either choose solo activity or group activity tracking. Then the difficulty level. Not everyone knows how to ride a bike very good, so we'll have different routes for all type of people. And also even different routes, going through scenic places around Gozo. The third one, special features. This will be a paid feature. Mind you, the app will be free, but only limited. Now, with these special features, we're going to have treasure hunts. Lots of people and organizations are offering treasure hunts as a team-building activity. We will offer it through the app. The second one is sustainable feature. When going out on the countryside, some basic waste in the countryside. Now, I don't like that. So with this feature, the users will have an option to take a photo, and with geolocation checking, the local council will be informed about the waste, and then they can pick it up. Thirdly, safety feature. Obviously, the user is responsible for his actions, but I want to make him feel more safe. First is the out-of-field warning. When you go out of track, you just get a notification saying you're out of field. Second one is the stopping warning. Now, this is just in case for an accident happens. I want minimal time until the hospital knows. So, firstly, the first warning will be after 2 minutes. The second warning will be 1 minute after the first, and the third 30 seconds after the second warning. To a total of 3.5 minutes. The hospital will be informed, and an ambulance hopefully will be on the way. Now, with special events, we want to attract new users. By this, we can make charity events. We can make new charity events to promote new users. Obviously, they will go for Patino Cares and other charity, or even charities would promote economic things. Now, we want to incentivize the people to use it. This is going to be through our reward system. Obviously, they will get various discounts from shops. Now, how is this going to happen? For example, for every 5 kilometers, you will have a 5% discount from a shop. Now, the trophy system. The trophy system is an in-app trophy system for rewards. But I don't want to give the users only that. I want them to go get as much as trophies possible, and in the end, they receive physical medals which are from recycled material. Moreover, for every new user, we want to plant a new tree. Now, budgeting. Currently, we were discussing with church software developers, and they came to the conclusion that the app will cost around 75K to 100K. Now, this costs this much because it will have all the features, including even offline tracking, which is important because in the countryside, maybe there isn't cell service. Now, for the rewards, we were discussing with 2 Chinese suppliers and 1 goods supplier. We came to the conclusion that the best price is of 79 cents per item when buying 1,000 pieces. Now, for marketing, we haven't allocated any budget yet because this needs to be a movement. We need to put a lot of funds in marketing. I was thinking we partner with gyms, sports teams, cycling teams, even fitness influencers, or even bulletproof culture, because they have the same goals as us. Now, source of funding. Government subsidies and grants. Obviously, the government gives grants to startups, and not only that. I want to propose the government with a plan. I can help them reduce their medical costs regarding pollution, regarding diseases from pollution, and health-related issues. By this, the government will give us an X amount of money, and in the future, in the long run, they will save lots of funds from medical costs. Now, there are trophies, as said, and special feature subscriptions. The special features will all be a paid service, and our competitors have around €4 to €6 per feature. Now, obviously, from suppliers with discounts, we'll have commission from them. On to the next slide. Funding. The research stage. We want to put out questionnaires to get good information as possible for user-friendly, what routes people want, how they want it. We want the people to be involved. Again, this is not only a business idea. I want it to be a movement. So now, the design stage. This design stage, we will talk with the software developers and try to make the design user-friendly as possible. Obviously, this will be based on the results of the research stage. Now, the beta checking. Obviously, we want to do lots of tests because we don't want the user's app to crash during the cycling or whatever activity. Now, marketing stage. Again, we want to put our main funds there to get the word out. I believe that not only with the help of influencers and the other people that I mentioned, the government can step in and help us. Again, in the long run, they will benefit from this. Now, solution. People, to get more people to use the users, we need to incentivize them by rewards. Nothing is bad with good, healthy competition with peers or family. Again, we will partner with fitness influencers, gyms, and fitness organizations. Now, limitations and difficulties. We have a few. First, it's a large project. We need time and dedication to spread our message. Internet problems. In the countryside, sometimes there's no cell service, so there's no internet. To tackle that problem, we will offer an offline feature. Now, weather. Not every day is a good day to go out. Road safety. Well, Malta's road safety is a bit worse. We would like to improve the road safety in Gozo as well to help the users feel more safe. Now, do you use your own resources? Users have to use their own bikes or other stuff. Now, with regards to tourists, we can partner up with a bike rental shop so we can rent them bikes and tourists use our apps. Now, tourists will only pay one time. It is not catered for people with special needs, and the mobile needs to be charged. Either you have a power bank as backup, or at least have 75% battery life. That's all. Thank you. Any questions?
I now invite Simon Chamber to make his questions.
Okay. First and foremost, I like your idea.
Thank you.
It's something that I do find, I relate to what you were saying, the fact that I'm always running with a smartwatch and a sports watch. In fact, my question would be, so in the market there are a lot of sports apps that you can use. Most of them, as you said, they would be free as well. My question was, what will next step give more to the users? How are you going to convince someone like myself to move away from the app I'm using currently to join next step?
Obviously, we have the discounts, various discounts from shops, but I want to make it a movement. Moreover, sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Remember to breathe as well. So my question is, what is the added value of next step compared to other apps?
So basically, I want to incentivize healthy competition around peers. Now peers and family will have more time together, and obviously they will get rewarded through our reward system. That's it.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
I now invite Daniel Sultana to present his idea, Eco Aquaria.
Hi, I am Daniel Sultana. I'm from Shara, and I'm going to present my company, Eco Aquaria. And our main goal is to help nature one step at a time. So it all started when it was my 16th birthday, and I have always loved animals and aquariums. And so my dad took me into an aquarium store. He gave me 50 euros, and he told me, spend whatever you want in here. So I went and I spent it on fish and aquatic plants and other several different types of products. And so when I did that and I was unloading everything into the car, I noticed how many bags that were single-use plastic bags I was loading into the car. And I knew that all these bags, although I may reuse them, a lot of people end up just cutting the bag, putting the fish into the tank, and then throwing away the bag. And so that's where I went home, and that's where my vision came in. And so then I went on to Google, and I Googled some stuff, and I researched a bit, and I found out a new method on how, instead of using plastic bags that are single-use, we can use containers instead. And I came across a aquarium chain store in Germany called Gozo. Now, this aquarium chain store uses aquariums of several different sizes, and instead of using plastic bags, they package the animals into these containers, and so there's no plastic being used. It's all very sustainable. So it's very simple. You have to pay either 3 euros for a small container, 5 for a medium-sized container, or 7 for a large container. Now, this all depends on how big your fish is, or how many fish you are buying, or how big the plant is, etc. Now, the type of container is non-toxic, and it comes with a lid to prevent any water spillage, especially on a bumpy ride. And so it will be distributed in Gozo. And you may be asking, well, it's quite a small hobby. There shouldn't be that many aquarists in Malta. But you may be surprised that in Malta, there's 2 main Facebook groups. One called Aquarium Malta that has 3,600 members, and another one called Malta Aquarium and Fish Lovers, which has 2,800 members. Now, I decided to do a survey on the Malta Aquarium and Fish Lovers Facebook group of how often you go to the fish store. And you may be asking why the question isn't how often you go to the aquarium store to buy something. Well, it's like you can't go to a store and not buy anything. You always buy something. It's like going to a grocery and not buying anything. So you can see that most people with 44% go every 1 to 2 weeks. And the 22% going 4 days a week. Now you have 12% going once a month, 11% going every more than a month, and another 11% doing it online. So you can see with the main 2 percentages of 44% and 22% that many people go to aquarium stores and there's a lot of plastic being used. And this is just from one Facebook group. So not even from the one which has 3,600 members. So this will be implemented in Gozo. It will be very easy to implement. It will be implemented in aquarium stores across Gozo. And it's a safe testing ground because it's a very small market. So there's very, very low risk, and it will be implemented across Gozo. And it is very, very a good market. So budget is quite low for a company. 2,000 euro, and this is taking into account transport. It's also taking into account storage of the container and actually making the container. So now, although 2,000 may still be quite a lot for starting a company, it's very, very little. And the location where these containers can be stored is very simple, since these containers are so small and can be stacked that these containers can be just stored in my garage, or we can rent out another property if we really have to, if there's a high demand, and I'm sure there will be a high demand. And so we will have to store these in that garage. And so it's a very, very good way, since the budget is really low due to the property being very small. Now, transport-wise, from transporting the container from the supplier in Germany to Malta will be by DHL. Now, it's quite simple to get in contact with them and actually start to transport. So funding and financing, there are many, many different ways that this could happen and how this could work. So Malta Enterprise is a very good option. We can contact Malta Enterprise and we can tell them about our company, and they can help us out. Now, due to this amount being quite low, 2,000 euros, I myself can fund the project. I can take money from my bank account and use this to fund this project that I'm very sure will work. But there's another 2 options, which are also very good options. Now, my own family or my own friends can help and chip in a bit and donate a bit and help me out. Or I can use crowdfunding, where I propose the idea to people and they can donate to my cause to help me out in this. Now, there will be difficulties. Although these are very minimal, there will be difficulties. Some include which could be difficulties in the transportation. Now, there will be public relations, There will be public relations prepared to combat any blockages or if there's a stoppage in the transportation. And there will need to be adequate stock to combat this. So people will need to invest in the company to actually combat if there will be any problems such as what we mentioned. So another problem could be if aquarium stores refuse to adopt this innovative approach. Now, this will be highly unlikely due to the fact that these aquarium stores are buying these bags over and over and over, and no one's bringing them back. So they're constantly buying these bags, and they're using money for these bags, and they're wasting money. And so when they're using container, these containers can be reused and can be brought back. So now the containers, good about them is that you can either pay the amount, either like €3 for small, €5 for medium, or 7 for large, and you can take it home and you can use it for anything. You can use it to hold food, or maybe for school supplies, or you can use it directly related to the actual hobby, the aquarium hobby, and you can hold fish food or maybe aquarium products. So that's what's so good about it, is that the person can either hold the container, because they've paid for it, and they can use it for other purposes, or the person can return the container and they will get 100% of their money that they spent back. So expansion is a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of plans for expansion. So the products will be distributed and tested in Gozo. So it will be distributed in the aquarium stores in Gozo, and it will be tested to check how it will go, and I have no doubt that it will go good. It will go good. And with the low amount of aquarium stores, the low market, it will be very successful. I'm very sure of that. And after we test in Gozo and see the results in Gozo, we can then expand to Malta, where the main majority of aquarium stores are, and we can use these containers there, and instead of plastic bags, we use these containers. And most of these aquarists, that, for example, like you saw in the statistics, most of them live in Malta. So this will be very, very good for us to expand to Malta and use in Malta. Now, it doesn't only stop there. We can expand to even more countries. So the fact that there's only Germany that is using this method right now, we can expand to more countries, and this will be very, very good for the aquarium hobby and the aquarium industry throughout many, many different countries. So this is really an opportunity not to be missed. With the low market, low cost, the low budget, and the good success rates, this can expand, and many more companies can be launched from this, as in companies that produce containers, but for different uses, with different sizes, and with different functions. So this is really an opportunity that you have never seen before, because I've never heard of anyone doing this, where they found out a way how to remove single-use plastic from aquarium stores, because nowadays we're trying to remove single-use plastic from many places, such as supermarkets, but no one has ever considered doing it in aquarium stores, and so this is the first time it's ever being done, and I think it will be really, really successful. Thank you so much.
I now invite Matthew Carwan and Mario Borch to make their questions.
Hi, Daniel. Well done for the presentation.
Thank you.
Nicely presented. Very clear, so well done. I have a couple of questions. The first one was going to be about the material. What material are these containers made out of?
So it's made out of the regular hard plastic that most containers would be made out of. And the good thing about these hard plastics is that they're very hard to pierce through. So a problem people often find with the regular bags is that they're very easy to pierce through, especially if you have to take it on a road trip or you're 2 hours away from the aquarium store in several different countries where it happens. And there's a leakage in the bag. A lot of times that water will drain out and the fish will die. So it's really good that these containers are made of this hard plastic, which is very hard to pierce through and can contain all this water.
Good, because that was going to lead to whether these boxes will be able to be used over and over again, but that answered that question as well. When it comes to the cost you mentioned, because the budget you're requesting is very little.
Yes.
So obviously you would need to analyze better maybe what's included and what not. But what is your margin on these boxes?
Our price.
So, because you mentioned the prices that the consumer would be buying, right?
Yes.
So, what would be your per cost price?
So it costs less than €1 to make, but that's considering that it will cost a lot more if we didn't try to decrease prices on a lot more things. So we're making it €3, €5, €7, so that even if somehow something happens where the prices may go up, we're still covered. Because we don't want to make it where we're making very little profit, right? And if there is a problem, then we start to go down because we don't have enough profit to cover that.
No, I mean, you need to cover not only the cost of the boxes, but your running costs, your delivery,
Yes.
your marketing,
That's
and everything.
why
So, but again, you said the word make them, but you're importing them, right? You're
Yes.
not producing the boxes yourself.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, I have some few comments and one question or two. First of all, I like the idea. It's a simple idea, but not simplistic, which is a good combination. It never hurts. I think the project, the idea, tackles a niche market, maybe a very small one here in Gozo, but from your presentation, it seems that you did your homework and your market research, because you presented a slide on the two Facebook groups and the activity and such things. My concern is about the smallness of the market, as I said, because it's a niche market, and in convincing operators, the few shops that serve this market to participate in this project, because it's one thing people saying it's a good idea, and the other thing having them to add additional burden in terms of administration. You know, these shops already have a lot of compliance, a lot of paperwork to do, so they are going to add some, even if marginal, but for them it's an extra burden in terms of administration. I like the idea of covering the cost. You mentioned crowdfunding. I think it's a very good idea. I was putting a note, and then you anticipated me by saying it. And I have a small suggestion. It could also work linking the use of these plastic bottles or whatever they're called, and part of the money that customers pay go to a NGO, so that you can market it as part of a wider initiative. You tackle the problem of single-use plastic, and people are buying or taking these devices at home and use them, and part of the money goes to an NGO, an environmental NGO. So let's go to the question. How do you think you can convince the operators to participate in this project?
Yes, so the little amount of shops in Gozo, we'll go to them in person and we will explain to them why this will benefit them using these containers. First of all, not only is it more cheap for them to use these containers because they don't have to keep buying the bags over and over and over, but the people actually prefer going to a more sustainable shop rather than one that is not sustainable and has refused to take an innovative approach to be sustainable. So if people find out that a shop has refused this proposal and is still using plastic bags, even though they've been given the opportunity, I think that less people would go to that shop and more people would go to the one that uses the actual containers.
If I may just come back with a comment leading from this question. Have you thought of, rather than selling them to the retailers, to the shops, selling them to the hobbyists, to the people that actually have fish and go regularly to the, so that they buy it and they take it with them to the shop when they're buying? And a quick question, if you can briefly describe what's different from these containers from any food container that I have in the kitchen and I can use it. Sort of just from an ignorant point of view, I'm asking what's different in these.
Okay, so the difference is that a lot of containers are toxic, and you may not even realize it. It may not be toxic to you, but it is toxic to fish, especially fish are a lot more sensitive to changes in pH or KH, GH, and many other chemical properties. And so these containers are non-toxic, don't release any toxins into the water, and these containers are actually insulating containers where they are able to keep the actual temperature of the aquarium store in. Can you repeat your first question?
Have you considered the model of actually selling them to the people who go regularly to the fish shops rather than to the fish shops?
Yes, we have considered it, but it would be more difficult to distribute it to these people, even though if we open like a little pop-up shop or something where these people come, I think it is better for the containers to be at the store ready so that when people come, the containers are there and they take the fish. It isn't like they go to the aquarium store and they're like, I forgot the container, you know? So I think it's better for the containers to be there, ready to take, ready to put the fish in, and ready to go.
Actually, one of my questions was if selling them directly to the consumer as well. Is there a way that you can also capitalize on the container from the outside? I mean, could be there a way of putting an advert on the?
Yes, so we can get stuff engraved, our logo name and our motto, which is helping nature one step at a time. And so we can get that engraved in the container. Obviously, it will cost additional costs. And I think for now, we will, instead of adding engraving, since it will add up the costs, we will start to sell the containers, make some money from that, make some profits, and then we can start to add the engravings. But there will be plenty of advertising for it, whether it would be social media or billboards or etc. So there will be advertising. Advertising is not a worry.
Yeah, but and my question is if you could capitalize on that rather than, of course, your company logo needs to be visible. But would you also consider it's sort of like using the outer box to have companies, for example, using the box to advertise their services, especially related to their hobby?
So we could definitely partner with many aquarium brands that do make products and get their logos and other stuff onto the container, on the outside of the container, where they can obviously get advertising from it. Now, there will be a fee behind it. I'm yet to still calculate this fee, but I will calculate it and I will find out about it. But there will be other advertising from several different brands, where we can, even if we can get American brands, since they're being more and more distributed to Gozo and Malta now than they were before. Because before, we just used to have European brands only in Malta and Gozo, like Sarah or Tetra. But if we can get more American brands like Fluval into Gozo once they sell more of it, then we can add the advertisements on the outside.
Thank you for the presentation. Just maybe a point to dive into a bit more on what Matthew was saying, just to understand a little bit better your business model. Because you mentioned some information regarding prices, but it wasn't clear to me on how you would be getting an additional margin. If you could just expand a bit on that point, please. Thank you.
So we will be using Gozo as a test ground. Since it's a small market, there will be very little risk. So we can use Gozo as a test ground instead of straight away expanding, and there could be a risk of straight away expanding that once we use a lot of money to expand, and to expand to the various stores across Malta and Gozo, we would be using a lot of the money, and if there is something that does go wrong, we would be losing quite a lot of money and the company could go down. So I think it's better for us to just distribute it in Gozo first, using it as a test ground, and then once we have used it as a test ground for a certain period of time, we can then expand to Malta and other countries eventually.
Understood from a scale-up. But still, you didn't answer the question on profitability, on business model. It's going to cost you how much to get them, how much are you going to sell them, and how much is going to be left in your pocket. If you can do it, you can do it on a single.
Okay, so from my understanding, your question is from the money we have of how much is in my pocket, how much we used to make the containers and how much we used to distribute, how much would be left. Is that your question? Yeah?
Exactly. How much would be left for you finally as a profit?
Okay. So that's why we, instead of making the prices very close to the production price, we made it €3, €5, €7, which might seem quite absurd for a plastic container, but in reality, people can return and get their money back. But that's why we made them at quite a high price, so that there will be still profit after creating the container, which takes less than €1, transporting everything, especially when we transport in bulk, the price will be a lot less. So there will be profit of around €1.50 for the €3
Very
container.
clear. Thank you. No other questions from my end. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathaniel and Daniel, for your presentations. We will now be having a short break, during which food will be served. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Luca Gallia. I'm a second-year electrical engineering student.
And I am Malcolm Borge. I am currently studying AI in the University of Malta.
Today, we're here to propose our idea of a smart meter household app. Before talking about the idea that we had, I will try to tell you a little bit about the arising problems which Malta and Gozo are suffering from right now. The first point is about the energy crisis. We all know how the prices are rising, and they will keep on rising. We can see this with the power cuts throughout Europe, mostly in Paris. Due to the war, the EU has tried to get other sources of energy from Norway or Egypt, for example, but it is too expensive due to the scarcity. Malta right now, to tell you a little bit about how bad the situation is in Malta, I got some statistics from the EU page. Right now, Malta is dependent on 96.2% to get their energy imported from the EU, which is all natural gas. That's the problem, because the EU has a quota that at least 15% need to be renewable energy, while in Malta it's still only 3.8%. Compared to other countries such as Norway, it is the biggest importer in Europe right now for gas. It imports around minus 623%, meaning that it doesn't pay for any energy from outside its own country. Here in Malta, we aren't seeing this surge in prices in petrol, diesel, and other energy, electricity, because of government subsidies. But this can't continue forever. The government doesn't have infinite money. Prices will rise at one point or another. The second point is water scarcity. Water has always been a problem for these two little islands, and it will forever be due to the ever-decreasing amount of potable water availability. People seem content the way things are, but they do not realize how much we will suffer due to no preparation for the future. Water right now in Malta is currently being supplied mostly to the desalination plants, but that takes for only two working factories right now, with the third one being built. It takes around 5% of the electricity energized every day, and that is a lot. The third thing is efficiency. In Malta and Gozo alike, particularly Gozo, we suffer from inefficiency in various parts. Some systems of work are still a little bit old-fashioned, which sometimes it's good, but when modernizing and updating systems, you are streamlining the process and making it much more effortless to work with.
So, with those issues in mind, we thought of a way to find a solution. We feel that an app such as the one we are presenting today would be a great way to start, as it will lay a great foundation and allow for future improvement. So the way it will work is each registered household will be given a unique identifier by which the owner can access it through the app. And once verified, he can view various data about it, both present and historical. So he will be able to view water and electrical bills and also download them. Therefore, most people, and I'm sure most will, opt out from receiving the bills by post, which will reduce greatly the paper waste. The app will also, as said before, allow for viewing of historical bills, which will allow the users to compare and contrast between the different seasons and view trends and such, when the app can make this much easier by graphing the results and make it much more readable. Like I said before, for example, a user can see that there was a spike in summer in his electrical bill, because in summer it's much warmer, and so people tend to use more the air conditioning. Third, most people nowadays, at least, use solar panels. So it would be a great, incredible to see this data also in the same app, all in one. So people can see their income and their out accordingly.
The app would also have the option for people to give information about their appliances, mainly the big appliances such as fridges, air conditioners, TV freezers, etc. All of those big appliances that take a lot of energy. So that the app could give tips on how the household could save more money. Basically, this works by the person who is controlling the app, because there's only one person per household that controls the app, would input the type, model, and other important stuff that will be relevant. The app itself will automatically calculate the energy rating and will tell you, look, these are working efficiently, but this thing, it takes too much power. It will give you other energy-friendly options to change them. We'll be aiming for this app to give as much troubleshooting, help and encouragement as possible to the household, so they could be more green. Some options on how someone might decrease his usage will be provided to that household depending on what information is given. As I said before, the appliances, the solar panels, other renewable sources such as wind turbines, everything. The app will run on a notification basis. it will be the responsibility of the person to check in the app once in a while to see that the day-to-day running of the house and solar panels are all in accordance to the norm. However, the app will send notifications to the person's phone or laptop where the app is installed regarding a spike. Basically, the spike is a huge, too much current passing through at a certain point, or the app, and even it will send notification when the app won't getting information from the external sources, as I said, from the solar panels. The solar panels can give the data, and the app will analyze that data to create the charts for the person to see, the bar graphs to see at which point the solar panels have produced the most power, at which point the least power, if they are being efficient, everything. The last development of the app. This is only an option if a deal with Malta can be struck. The app would allow people to pay for all the bills from their phone. Right now, people are paying the bills by mobile banking, but with mobile banking, they need to create a template and input the IBAN number, the account that they want to send them to, or sometimes even still old-fashioned, go to the offices themselves and pay it cash. This app will eliminate all these flaws and streamline it. The household would insert an account, be it from any bank, it doesn't matter which bank it is, from which the money will be taken from. And when a bill is posted, the money will be automatically transferred. But before being transferred, the app will send notification, and this notification will be prioritized over the other notifications. It will be the first one that will come up on the phone, on the app itself, so that the person could see the bill before accepting the money, obviously, and check whether it has the right information about himself and if the bill is of himself. Then he would accept the payment and the money will be transferred. The funding. Another advantage for this app is how easy it is to start. There is little to no funding needed to build the app, only time, if it is built in-house. Most of the little funding needed would either be achieved by personal finance, or otherwise known as bootstrapping, or funding grants for startup companies and apps given by the government, EU, and other entities. The other source of income during the research and development, mostly in the later stage of the development of this app, would be from angel investors or other software development companies who like the idea and would help in giving resources, human resources, meaning other software developers, or even financial resources. The fixed cost of the app will only include the cost to keep the servers running all the time, because you cannot let the servers, the data down. That will be the fixed cost, which is only needed at the very end of the development stage. So until the putting out the app, little to no cost is needed if it is built in-house. For testing and production of the app, only 6 months are needed if worked on full-time. And when started as beta testing, it will be working parallel to the bills that you receive at the post office, so the people can see which they prefer. The bills that probably month after month you will throw away the paper and you will lose the data, or an app that you have all the data throughout all the years, including your solar panels, including everything on it, on one app. The difficulties that can be encountered in the implementation of the idea. There will be some difficulties when it comes to implementation of the app, as well as advertising it to the public. The problem is that Gozo has a relatively old population, as we all know, creating the problem that not all people would have access to this app. as they would not know how to work a smartphone or a computer, or they just don't own one. This problem can be solved by allowing a relative or friend of said person to control the app instead of that person, but this will need verification from the person itself. The app works and can be advertised for without the use of the last stage of development that I said that you can pay the bills for. But for that to work, the person, obviously, you cannot get the bills on the app if a deal is not struck with an amount, because that is private information. However, the person, if he wants to, can scan with their mobile phone, and the bills will be automatically inputted into their app if the last stage is not implemented. It can be used without the last stage. Safety measures will be put in place, and it will be discussed with other entities that control this type of apps. Profit can be earned from three ways mainly. Either advertisements on the app that will be related to the sponsors. Probably it will be the banks that sponsor the app, the HSBC, BOV, etc., the ones that work with if the third part of the development stage is allowed to happen. The second option is by selling the finished app, or by entering into a contract with a company or government entity that we will sell the app to them while still being employed to work as the developers. That's it. Thanks a lot. If you have any questions.
I can start. Thank you for the presentation. I have some mixed views about it, because from one side, I think my impression is that it tries to do too much things at one go. So we're talking and we're speaking about paying bills, monitoring of the consumption and stuff like this. So maybe if it is more focused, I think it would be better ideally at initial stages. I also have a question or a concern about the data needs for this app, because my impression and my understanding is that it needs a lot of data, either from arms, past bills and stuff like this, or else it will be connected directly with the appliances, because I haven't understood exactly, for example, if it will be either directly connected or with some form of a device with the appliances and with the solar panels and things like that. In terms of funding and timing, I also under the impression that maybe you're being too optimistic, because if I understood well, you said that in terms of funding, it's not too much in terms of needs. From what I understood and listened to, given that it will try to tackle a lot of issue and there is a lot of data requirement, I think it will cost money. It will cost more than I think it was presented to us. I don't know if you can answer some of these concerns.
For the second question, it was about the data required, right?
Data requirement, either from the arms or...
So, for the data required, if a deal is not struck with an Malta, it can be done from the person that controls the app. It doesn't need a lot of data. It mostly needs the input and the output. If he has any input from the solar panels that he can see from the smart meter that he has at home, and the information about the appliances. The other data will be automatically done by the app. He only just needs to put the little info about how much, for example, kilowatt hours he produced a day. Because as I said, the smart meter doesn't store your data throughout the years. This helps by storing it forever. You only need to insert, if not a deal is not struck and it goes in automatically, you want you to enter a limited amount of data, maximum of 10 to 20 minutes every 3 months or whenever the bill arrives. So it's not a lot. The problem is that on initial download of the app, you need to, if you want to use the appliance part of the app, you need to input all the data of the appliances. However, you can choose not to use it. But the app, that part is there to help you achieve a greener home and lose less money from the efficiency.
And adding another point, you can also, instead of, copying each value separately, scan the bill, and then it is parsed accordingly.
Because we will have a sample of the bill beforehand, and we'll just scanning the photo of a bill, we can deduce which amount of money is for what is for what, and the app would automatically inputs it in the servers. And for the third part about the funding, if I remember correctly, if the building of the app is done in-house, it will cost money, but as I said, not a lot. However, if we need to employ an employer, as found from the data sites that I found on Google and other people that I talked to, it will, for the 6 months, it will cost around 20,000 for a full-time one person to build the app. However, if it's done in-house with other students mostly, that like the idea, or other companies, it will take much less time, one, because due to the amount of people working on it at the same time, and two, a lot less money, because they would believe in the idea. That would streamline the process of bills, electricity, water usage around Gozo, Malta, everything. Can you ask me the first question again, because I forgot it?
I think you addressed most of my concerns. It was about the funding, the data requirements, and my first point was about that I get the impression that it tries to tackle a lot of problems at one go. It was more of a issue in my head than a question for you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I like the concept. Well done. Just have you done a competitive analysis in the local market to see whether you have scope to operate?
So could you repeat it again, as I did not understand?
In simple terms, have you checked whether there's a similar app already in Malta?
Check with similar app about the cost, or just about the running?
No. An app that offers exactly the same service.
In Malta, there aren't.
There is one.
There is. Right.
It's called Be Efficient MT. It's done by the Maltese government. So what I wanted to ask you was, what is your unique selling proposition?
Well, we could look into what they do, and basically what we do different from them is help to optimize the appliances and everything that there is in your house. I don't know, for example, because I didn't know about this app. I was informed that there is no app in Malta right now about this. However, obviously, if they do something that we do, we can implement it, but we do other stuff that I said that will implement energy saving ideas to help to optimize the person's home. We will try to make the person recognize with the national average, recognize that he is wasting too much money, using too much power and water compared to other people. The data that we wanted from the person is, obviously it's classified, so we won't tell other people who it is, but we will use it for the national average. So the person, because I doubt that people go around the town and say, I have used this much amount of electricity in a month, because it's private information, the amount of money that you use. So we would use that national average for the person privately to say, Isma, I am paying 20 euros more each month Why is that so? I am using too much. Let's decrease.
I think I understood your point. I think the fact that it is so widespread as an app could actually maybe be an opportunity to have a look at what's currently in the market from a competition point of view, and maybe focus on that area where you could really add specific value to it, because there's quite a market in this space. I like the idea. It's just that it's quite a crowded market, and you have to really find a niche area. So what I'd recommend is to do a competition analysis of the local market and see where you can really add the real value in your proposition. Otherwise, well done for the initiative and also for the presentation of doing it jointly and sharing the pitch. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to invite the members of the Victoria Scouts group to present their idea.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope, thank you and well done for making it this far. This is the last proposal, so we will try not to bore you all. So, to begin, sustainable black powder. What do I mean by black powder? I mean what is also commonly known as gunpowder. Throughout the Maltese Islands, its most common use could be found in fireworks. Now, I think we're all familiar with the the wonderful sight of the firework displays we see every summer around the village feasts. So, our idea addresses this rather niche market of the black powder industry. And what we've noticed is that due in part to the war in Ukraine and also due in part to supply chain issues because of the pandemic, certain minerals, most notably nitrates, phosphates and potassium, have risen to extremely high prices, making the manufacture of fireworks, which has been a local tradition for a very long time, extremely expensive. And it could face a very, very potential threat to the firework industry as a whole. And so our proposal is that building quite a small scale, really, black powder manufactory on Gozo would be able to supply these gunpowder manufacturers. There are a full 35 gunpowder manufactories in Malta and Gozo as it stands. This small gunpowder making facility would be able to supply all these producers relatively easy, using methods which can be actually quite surprisingly sustainable. So, let us continue. Of course, I'm mentioning the black powder market in reference to the fireworks industry. However, there are multiple other markets that are out there in this country that do use black powder. For example, in a military and firearms capacity, black powder, although not the main propellant, is used as the ignition source of the main propellant. And it is also used in fuses and charges. Not to mention, in the entertainment industry, it is used quite extensively in pyrotechnics. And mind you, my colleagues will explain further on that the facility itself will be constructed in a relatively sustainable manner, thus even further reducing the carbon footprint. So,
the gunpowder is mostly made of 3 materials. They can all be extracted from natural things like foods and, I don't know, fertilizer, instead of being exported from outside Malta and Gozo, which would decrease emission costs. Fireworks are made from small pellets. They are called stars. Those are mostly made of gunpowder, and elements are added that change the color of the fireworks, but those aren't really important. They are made by pyrotechnicians, which are people that excel in chemistry. They are usually made by hands, not by machines, as it is too dangerous by machines. So we will need pyrotechnicians.
So, we also have a small path for expansion in this regard. Now, when we were brainstorming the idea, we maybe got a bit ahead of ourselves, but however, it does still lie there that there is the potential opportunity that not only by the simple production process that black powder has, which is honestly extremely simple, and materials like sulfur, which my friend Giuseppe was talking about, can be extracted from organic materials. It's just simply not done enough, because so far there's the countries in which black powder is produced in large amounts, sulfur is found naturally within the rocks themselves. However, sulfur extraction is a relatively simple process involving the steaming of whatever said organic component that holds the sulfur, and you can yield quite decent amounts of sulfur from it, for sure. So, by getting the know-how of black powder production, and the facility would be designed to safely store black powder, we could even further expand into the production of gun cotton, which is the base material used to then make smokeless powder, which is the modern version of black powder used in all manner of firearms and explosive devices. Now, these could be given and sold to for example, the Armed Forces of Malta and independent manufacturers to produce munitions. Now, from a sustainability point of view, these would be produced locally and therefore reduce by several percentages, reduce the emissions and also the waste produced by packaging that importing would cause. Not to mention the fact that this would help the black powder, and then if this would further continue, the munitions industry of the country would become further self-sufficient. And from a strategic point of view, should, God forbid, anything terrible happen on the international stage, at least a certain part of the country's national security is within its own hands, in this case, munitions production. So, the next question is, how will this project help mitigate climate change? Now, I've already gone into it a bit, but quite simply put, when it comes to importing materials like gunpowder, which these firework manufacturers do quite often, these create a lot of emissions. And not to mention, because they are such a volatile substance, there are many, many lines of red tape that surround their importation. And not to mention, with that comes all the waste produced by packaging and so on and so forth. So by producing locally, we are not only reducing emissions from shipping and the fuel used, but also the plastic and such used by packaging. And also, one of my colleagues, Simon, will be further going into detail on this too. The production methods involved all feature circular methods which begin in Gozo and also end in Gozo. So thus basically making this entire endeavour an entirely Gozotan product and an entirely Gozotan produced material. Furthermore, the actual facility itself, does not surprisingly require anything too major. Obviously, compared to a lot of the other projects of a much more economical scale, this would obviously require a bit more investment. You'd need the land and to build a facility. However, it would not require too much, and the facility itself would be built to ensure that it reduces the carbon footprint and also is not an eyesore. But I believe my friend Simon will now take over and talk about the environmental sustainability of this project.
Hi, good evening. As my colleague Presley said, my name is Simon. I'm here to speak to you about the environmental sustainability point of view and elaborate more on that. There are many ways in which a factory can be made environmentally sustainable, and tonight I'm going to speak about those. One way this can be done is isolation. As for it not to be an eyesore, and in the rare event of an accident, it can be built far away from civilizations, either that or in an industrial zone. We can also make use of circular manufacturing, which is the loop of materials, products, and components through multiple life cycles, basically meaning where we make environmental use of our products and we recycle materials. Whereas other industries, they only focus on money. Our priority is environmental sustainability. Trees. We also intend to plant various trees around the facility. Since it's a large-scale facility, there's going to be plenty of space which won't be used. The trees in particular which we intend to plant will be trees which are endangered, such as the carob tree. This will hopefully boost the population of these trees and hopefully get them out of the endangered margin. Digital communication will also be installed in the facility. It will be of a high-tech manner, hopefully, and we will utilize high speed. It will be reliable and use little to no power. We also intend to install things such as solar panels. Therefore, the company can generate a portion of its electricity itself. Therefore, we need to purchase less electricity from outside, therefore making it more environmentally sustainable.
Now we come to the big, scary issue that I'm sure you've all been thinking about, financing this project. So, the other question that might have popped into your heads while talking about this is, if this production method is so simple, then how come the 35 other firework manufacturers, for example, are not producing their own black powder? Well, as far as I can tell, as far as our research has gone, they do not. Now, the only difficulty with specifically the firework market and the firework industry in this country is that due to the intense rivalries of the different manufacturers, their exact production methods are a very closely guarded secret. However, due to the amounts of black powder that they import, it's quite clear that they, at the very least, do not produce their own black powder, mainly because of the aforementioned sulfur issue, which has to be imported, and so therefore why bother going through the entire process of manufacturing your own black powder when you can simply import from abroad. That wasn't necessarily a massive issue until these recent price rises. Now, the biggest difficulty, essentially, to this entire project is the construction of the facility itself. Now, this will require land to be bought or rented, ideally far away from any residential areas, and the most expensive aspect of the entire facility is not really in the machinery, the very little machinery that is required to produce the powder. It is more the storage. Now, our solution that we came up with for this issue is that a secure underground holding facility will be necessary and will be built, and that will require a significant amount of funds. However, apart from that, we would encourage and utilize a system of production where we produce the black powder on demand, therefore never producing too much and creating a big surplus of black powder that would have to be stored, which could be potentially dangerous. Now, our sources of funding would be, unfortunately, this is not really a project that one can bootstrap unless they are a millionaire, so, or at least have significant amounts of money. We would require private investors, so these firework manufacturers themselves could invest, even though they mostly rely on donations. They do pull significant amounts of capital. They could invest, and to encourage their investment, we could offer a discount on the black powder that we will then sell to them. Furthermore, the government could provide subsidies to this project, since, as we mentioned, this could be a solution, at least one solution, to the strategic problem of being a neutral island nation. And secondly, it is also providing a pillar of support for a very much beloved faculty of our culture and traditions. Not to mention, the European Union could fund this project as well, since, as I've already mentioned, this is a project which is all about, at least one big part of it, is about the funding of a traditional activity, one which is potentially in danger. And so, therefore, the EU could also provide us with a grant. That concludes our presentation, our pitch. If you have obviously any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for your presentation. Actually, I was, when you were talking about when you got to the part of the finances, you were right, because I was thinking it over and over, especially when you're saying that you need a facility away from everyone. Then you mentioned you need an underground store. So I thought about that a lot during your presentation, and it's a nice. An interesting idea as well. You never think about what goes into making fireworks. I have a few questions, and I'll start off. At one point, you said that you will need experts to do the gunpowder, and I believe you said chemists.
Somewhat of chemists.
Yeah.
Pyrotechnics.
Yeah. So one of my questions would be, how many people, employees, how much employees would you need to employ? Another question is your raw material. You mentioned organic. You're going to use organic material. Is, from your research, is there enough organic material that goes around to help you produce enough gunpowder? Especially when you're considering that one can consider that organic waste material is also being used to create compost and also for electricity as well. And I don't know if you could calculate how compared to your competition, which would be from abroad, if you have, what kind of profit would you see? If it's possible to anticipate, what would your, if you would be more when you're selling locally, if it will be more worthwhile for the local fireworks factories.
Right, yes, all very good questions. For the first one, you mentioned the personnel that would be required. Giuseppe mentioned the requirement of a pyrotechnician, and now when he was speaking, he was mainly talking about the production of the fireworks themselves. As for the production of black powder, you would only really need one pyrotechnician expert really on site, because they are not only well vested in the chemical process that takes place, but they are also obviously very aware of the safety precautions and all that is related to it. So you would be essentially employing a staff of roughly within the range of 5 to 10 people, I would say, to ensure not only safety, but since we are not simply just buying bulks of raw material and then just mixing them together to create black powder, we are producing the key ingredients necessary. It would require, yes, a staff of around 5 to 10 to ensure that that production is occurring and that is happening smoothly. So you mentioned then the material itself. So the three materials needed for black powder are sulfur, saltpeter, which is potassium nitrate, and also charcoal. Charcoal is relatively easy to get. It can be sourced locally. When it comes to potassium nitrate, very interesting, it can be produced from manure, dried manure. So there is ample supply of that. And the sulfur is a very interesting part. As I've mentioned, it can be, and as I believe Giuseppe mentioned, it can be produced from mainly organic components. It doesn't have to be harvested from mineral rock. And the plan, especially for the potassium nitrate and the sulfur, was to strike deals with local farmers and basically take in their sulfur-rich organic material waste and obviously their manure, and then use that in our process of making gunpowder. So I think there's definitely enough. Really, actually, surprisingly, the only material that you might have slight trouble if you're producing really large amounts, which I wouldn't think would be necessary, at least in the beginning, would be charcoal. But as I've said before, it's not too much of a major issue, the actual initial supply of raw ingredients. The mention of profit is where the real question comes in, and whether it be worthwhile. As far as I have seen, and as we were analysing what the market looks like, it seems like it would be profitable because of this sudden increase in these prices of minerals. And our biggest selling point is that the price would be marginally cheaper, but however, being produced locally, the vast amounts of red tape that comes with essentially importing explosives into a country are mostly removed because you're doing this process locally. And since we're tailoring to a local market, and we mentioned the production by demand as we go approach because of the availability of the raw material needed for production, we would, I think, be able to turn a profit and reinvest it into further initiatives. As we mentioned, the facility itself would be used as a green space, as it were. And we could, for example, then go, if we make quite a large profit, potentially fund, for example, other farmers, those that have given investment for the project or helped with the production of our material would be receive some sort of reward.
Thank you for the presentation. I think you presented it very well, so well done. I also like the idea that you saw an opportunity because of the current situation, how it's changing. So you were very entrepreneurial in that sense. So you're challenging the status quo, although fireworks have been manufactured for donkey's years. You're trying to see how it can be done differently, also in light of the current crisis that's happening also in the industry. So well done for that. I think some of my questions were tackled in the previous question, so the raw materials and the costs involved and how you compare to the current methods, because ultimately this is why you're trying to solve the problem. So you need to make sure that you are really solving it by being cheaper. So I would encourage you to take this further in terms of, I appreciate you're still in very early days, so I won't continue challenging you on that. But yes, in terms of the supply of raw material and the cost is where you need to analyze and what kind of investment you'll be needing. And analyze that a bit further and don't be too simplistic in saying, I think it will be enough, but you need evidence to show that it will be enough and it's sustainable. That it's not something that it will cater for 1 year, 2 years, and then you don't have enough resources anymore. This is what I mean by sustainable as well. The last thing I would put forward, again, because the questions were tackled previously, is I'll challenge also your business model. Because you would depend on resources that your clients already have. They have the facilities, they have the pyrotechnicians, they have the methodologies to develop things, so they have it. What you're giving them is a new way of thinking and the supply of raw materials. So potentially it's flipping over the business model, and you mentioned it also in the funding slide, that they would invest in you on a promise that they will get cheaper. Actually, I would argue they could actually be a major stakeholder in this, be it as a cooperative, all of them together, or whoever wants to join, or one of them actually sees the value that you're bringing on and use their facility, merger up with them, with one of them, that they have the facility, they have the pyrotechnics, they can do it. You'd bring in the other side of the business, which is the supply of raw material, dealing with the farmers, dealing in sourcing out manure, and selling it to the rest. So if 5 of the 35 join you, your job will be providing them the supply and selling them to the other 30. And they will be benefiting because their supply, their production is cheaper. So really, rather than the question, it's more of comments. Well done for tackling an aspect that's kind of developing now and being entrepreneurial in that sense. But now I'll ask you to be even more entrepreneurial, and rather doing it again in silo, going on, building facility, developing everything your own, to really sell this pitch to them by understanding the previous questions on the raw materials and the costs. If you can show them the story that's going to be cheaper in the long run and sustainable in the long run, they should be able to buy it. If they're not interested in actually coming on board like this, then you'll have to rethink whether they'll actually buy this gunpowder if it's more expensive. Worth going through that hassle of investment, and therefore I'll challenge you there too, but well done on thinking outside the box, rather than saying it's been done and we'll import sulfur from somewhere else. You're changing the whole way of doing things. Well done for that.
Well, thank you for those comments. I appreciate it. And to further emphasise the point that you initially made on the rather haphazard guesstimating going on in the finances, more or less, we can say that as regards for sulfur, one I was able to get rather concrete information on is, quite funnily, onions. Onions have a lot of sulfur in them. And so with about 1 kilogram of onions, you could get something in the realm of 50 to 100 grams of sulfur. And for the most part, sulfur is one of the minor components in the production of gunpowder. It's not one of the major. So in that regard, the regard of charcoal and the regard of potassium nitrate, all the production of those 3 ingredients is done relatively inexpensively for all of them. All they need is a little time. With the extraction of sulfur, it's a bit more of a complicated process, but all it really requires is a system of steaming and drying, so relatively inexpensive to make. The extraction of sulfur just needs to be thought out and done properly. And if once the know-how is acquired and once it gets up and running, I would I would definitely argue that it would even be cheaper than going to places like, for example, in Sicily or South America and extracting sulfur, which occurs near volcanic areas. So it's a bit dangerous too, and not to mention there's toxic fumes in and around those areas. So if done properly, the extraction of sulfur, for example, would actually be cheaper than abroad in the first place. Even if all the prices go back down and, something is done about all the red tape, it would be cheaper. So in the long run, for sure, there is the big promise of it being cheaper than importing. In the short run, there is this current problem which we would be solving. And so really the question mark comes into, and where we would have to work more, as you said, rather than the actual production method and the selling, would be the initial hurdle of the facility. However, we already had in mind when we were thinking about this project that it would revolve around some of the biggest consumers of black powder, the firework manufacturers. And so the point you bring up is actually just furthering that thinking forward. So really, walking along those lines, if we partnered even closer with the gunpowder firework manufacturers, we would be able to, at least a lot of the cost of the facility would be reduced because we'd be able to use their facilities, for example. And so, yes, you'd see the costs decrease drastically, yes.
Thank you for your presentations. Climate change is indeed an important subject, and as the world is discussing it on an international level, it has been really exciting to hear these pitches by these youth on the subject. And they have also shown us ideas which can help combat or mitigate climate change. Let me remind you that today no winner will be announced, as the aim of this event is to instill confidence in the youths who are participating. The winner will be announced on the 21st of November. I would like to invite Honorable Pert Clint Camilleri to make his intervention. Thank you.
It is my honor to be here tonight for another edition of the Youth for Entrepreneurship initiative organized yearly by the Gozo Business Chamber, and which forms an integral part of the SME Week activities. This event, whereby we assisted to 4 submissions, aims to provide an extraordinary platform to upcoming and aspiring business-minded people. This year's focus is on sustainability and more specifically on the business ideas which are focused on reducing climate change. This topic is high on the government's agenda with the recent events, and we are experiencing prolonged heat waves during summer, and our European counterparts witness devastating wildfires and flooding. We are now seeing the effects of climate change materializing closer to home. This means that any economic growth needs to be achieved with no, or at least minimal, impact on the natural environment, and that new niches of economic growth are in themselves sustainable solutions to mitigate the effects of climate change. During this week's COP27 meeting in Egypt, Prime Minister Roberto Bella stressed that we must implement measures to truly tackle climate change by introducing a fiscal policy that incentivizes investments in the digital economy and building a strong alternative energy policy. Dr. Bella also stressed that our country is implementing a decarbonization strategy, which we will have a neutral economy by 2050. Malta's presence at the COP affirms the country's commitment to honor the Paris Agreement so that the increase in global temperature will not exceed 1.5 degrees, while Malta it is also committed to playing its part in the ambitious European Union program in the Fit for 55 packages, which reduces emissions to tackle global warming. Our pledge for a better environment goes hand in hand with our promises for better quality of life. The government has set ambitious target of making Gozo carbon neutral before Malta, where we envisage to have all energy consumed by the island coming from renewable resources. Thanks also to the GRDA, Gozo is one of the 100 European cities that will be participating in this mission to become climate neutral by 2030 in a project backed also by the European Commission. The cities will actually, or in our case, the island will receive some 360 million between them from the Horizon Europe, the EU's funding program for research and innovation. Benefits for cities include tailor-made advice and assistance from a dedicated mission platform run by Net Zero Cities, additional funding and financing opportunities, and the possibility to join large innovation actions and pilot projects. The mission also provides networking opportunities, exchange of the best practices between cities, and support to engage citizens in the mission. I would like to conclude by congratulating all 4 participants who came up with interesting proposals. The government will continue to look forward and promote youth employment and entrepreneurship. We believe in our youth for a better country and for a better future. Gozo needs ambitious and also creative people like you. Thank you.
I would now like to invite each of the participants to be awarded their certificates. May I remind you that the winner of this year's contest will be announced on Monday, 21st November. Nathaniel Saliba. Daniel Sultana. Bishara Rover Crew. The Victoria Scout Group. I would now like to invite Daniel Borch, CEO of the Gozo Business Chamber, to make his concluding remarks.
Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. I will not be long, as you surely have your desserts, which are more delightful than my concluding remarks. But let me conclude by saying a big thanks to our partners on this initiative, Aġenzija Żgħażagħ, Bank of Valletta, and the Gozo Regional Development Authority. Their support was instrumental for the success of today's event. I would also like to thank the members of our evaluation panel, Mark Shikluna Bartoli, who was with us online, Matthew Caruana, Simon Schembri, and Mario Borch. They surely had a difficult task today, so a big round of applause again for all those who presented. Let me also thank the staff of the Chamber, Jesmond, Joanne, and Gianluca, for their support throughout and for always being patient with me in going throughout all the details. This year we continued to develop this initiative. We decided to launch it earlier in May, and Aġenzija Żgħażagħ did 3 sessions starting in summer whereby interested youth were supported all along the way. This apart from the personal contact, which is so important. A heartfelt thanks goes to Jennifer Kauki, who throughout this process, apart from the very well-prepared sessions, also taught me an important lesson, and that is the need to be patient with youth. Sometimes when we reach adult age, we tend to forget our past experience. When as an organization we decided to be further inclusive of youth, as we believe that they are the present and future of our society and economy, we also embarked on a learning process. We are happy to partner with organizations who enrich our learning experience. And I'm happy to say that after this 4th edition, I sincerely believe that this is bearing fruit. As indicated by the President in his initial address of the Gozo Business Chamber, it could not have come at a more eventful moment. As the COP27 is taking place in Egypt, discussing ways we could mitigate the effects of climate change, this contest has actually provided a platform for our youth where they could propose some important solutions. And let's not forget that youth around the world have led many grassroots movements and groundbreaking initiatives. And they have played an increasingly prominent role for action to address climate change. However, let's be true to ourselves. They are often faced with complex barriers in their work and activism, and have very rarely been invited sometimes into the conversation with policymakers. The Glasgow Climate Pact had agreed at the COP26 in 2001 to reverse this trend, and it urged, I quote, parties and stakeholders to ensure meaningful youth participation and representation in multilateral, national, and local decision-making processes, including under the Convention and Paris Agreement. And hopefully this year in COP27, young people will be given their rightful place to contribute to the discussions. And I sincerely believe that their voice will be heard. On a national level, I was pleased to read in the National Strategy for the Environment that was published recently that children and youth will be given particular attention to ensure that their active involvement is sought to inform decisions and their voice is heard for the benefit of future generations. Youth are our present and future. I sincerely hope that this initiative has contributed in a small measure to engage them further. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Richard. Awesome.
We have now come to the end of our event today. I would like to thank you for your participation, even for those who are following us online. We hope that you enjoyed yourselves, and especially for the youth involved, to have had a great experience. Thanks all and good night.
Grazie ħafna, Richard. Awesome. Thank you for coordinating everything. It was really well done. Ciao. Good night.